This movie will 100% make you crave chocolate as the credits roll. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I got my review of Wonka, the latest musical film that hits theaters December 15th. It stars Timothée Chalamet in the lead role. And before I give you guys my thoughts on this thing, be sure to hit that like button, comment your thoughts on the film down below, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. And go show some love to the Unusual Couple podcast for weekly episodes. We have a blast with it over there. Alright, so going into this movie, I knew a little bit about it. Obviously, it stars Timothée Chalamet, and it was rumored to have musical elements. Now, the marketing doesn't really push that, but when you sit down and watch this thing, I feel like I should give you guys this heads up that it's a full-on musical. There are multiple musical numbers, some of them extravagant, some of them a little more personal. But if you're not a fan of musicals, this movie might not be for you. For me, I love musicals. So starting out with the positives, the things I really enjoy with this movie, by far the standout was Timothée Chalamet in the lead role of Willy Wonka. He's just so naturally charismatic in this role, so comfortable, and it let us see a different side of him as an actor. A lot of times he's doing these more, brooding, emotional roles. Here he's playing Willy Wonka. He's got to be eccentric and over the top, and he absolutely sells you on this character while also having an emotional core that you can resonate with. Like, he plays the character so well, and honestly, I was impressed with this man's ability to sing. I knew that he could rap, but when it comes to singing, he was carrying a tune throughout this entire movie, and some of his performances gave me outright chills, especially his rendition of Pure Imagination, which, if Spotify Wrapped were a bit later, it would have a chance to be on that. And one of the supporting characters in the film is played by Hugh Grant, and that is none other than an Oompa Loompa. That's right, he plays a little Oompa Loompa in this film, the Orange and Green Man, as he's called. And he's hilarious. He's a scene stealer, in my opinion. Any scene involving both Hugh Grant and Timothée Chalamet rocked. I mean, they both just commit to these roles and you buy into this wacky world. So it goes without saying, I'm glad that I rewatched the original Wonka film before this because I hadn't seen that since childhood. The movie came out and I want to say 1971. Obviously it stars Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, one of the most iconic performances I'd say ever. So I'm glad I rewatched that movie because this Wonka film is littered with callbacks, Easter eggs, and nods to that original film, because in a way it serves as a prequel / origin. I didn't know how this movie functioned within the Wonka world going in, and so it was a pleasant surprise watching this whole thing unfold, being like, oh, that's why he does this in the original movie. Oh, that's why he has this person in the original movie. It was just cool to connect the dots, and I think the filmmaker Paul King and everyone involved approached this with care. They wanted to pay homage to that original while still making it their own story, and that's 100% what they did here. Like I mentioned up front, there are a lot of musical numbers. Some slapped, others didn't hit as hard, we'll talk about in a second, but regardless, this is a musical. It's wacky, it's wild, it embraces that from the start. I love when a movie knows what it is and it sticks with that and it rides it to the very end. That's what Wonka does. It doesn't try and switch up. It is a musical, wacky from the beginning. Like, as I was watching this, I couldn't help but get early 2000s family film vibes because this movie's rated PG. It's a family film. It reminded me of some of those movies from like the early 2000s that I would rent from Blockbuster and watch with my family, and looking back, are they the best movies I've ever seen? Absolutely not. But they have this endearing nature about them where you can't help but feel charmed or heartwarmed, and that's exactly what Wonka does here. It's far from perfect. I'm about to get into some of my flaws with the film, but ultimately it succeeded at making me feel happy, and I think that's this movie's goal. Alright, so getting on to some of my issues with the film, to me, the humor missed the mark a lot of the times. Now, I am aware it's targeted towards a younger audience because, like I mentioned, this is a family film, so this humor might work for, the kids in the family, but for me, I was like, oh, there were like crickets in the audience, cringe at times. And I hate to use that word, but a lot of the humor missed the mark. There's a running bit with Keegan-Michael Key's character that worked at times, but to a certain point it was like, okay, it's like we're beating a dead horse here. Other musical moments with villainous characters, humor didn't really work for me there either, so not everything was clicking. And that kind of goes into my next point, that any character that's not the Oompa Loompa or not Willy Wonka, I felt a real lack of energy from the performances. Like, there are certain relationships in this film that are supposed to be the emotional crux, specifically Wonka and a young girl, and I feel like the acting wasn't all there. Maybe that's just Timothée Chalamet being head and shoulders better than everyone else in this film, but I did feel like a lot of the supporting cast, specifically those surrounding Wonka, he's got his little crew that forms over this movie, no spoilers of course, they didn't really give it their all in my opinion, and I just feel like Timothée Chalamet was, again, so much better than them and giving it his all 120%, whereas with them, it's like, could you give me a little bit more with some facial expressions, make me feel something? Because the performances were better there, specifically one relationship in particular with the character Noodle. I would have bought in more, but I was like, man, it's just like everyone's sort of phoning it in here. I cannot emphasize this enough. Any scene without Wonka, there was a clear dip in energy, a clear dip in enjoyability. I wish every scene could have had him. That's not the case, but there are certain sequences musically that didn't involve him, and I was like, man, what are we doing here? Kind of started to drag. And that's just further evidence of how great Timothée Chalamet is in this role, because any scene without him, noticeable dip. In fact, I can't think of many other actors his age that could have pulled this role off and had you locked in from the start, because without him in this movie, there's a chance that it's almost unwatchable. Like, it might have been disastrous without Timothée Chalamet's commitment to this role. In fact, the movie already feels a bit dull and lethargic at times when he's not on screen, so if it was just someone else, some random person plugged in and they were kind of phoning it in, man, this probably would have been dumpster fire. But Timothée Chalamet carried it on his back, and so did Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa. And as wonderful as this world was to spend some time in, there are some real plot holes and conveniences, but again, they don't really bother me that much. I am very okay to look past a lot of these issues and gripes that I have, because the movie made me feel something. It was really sweet at the end of the day. There's this mother-son relationship that's sort of explored throughout the film. Ideas of sort of an unconventional family forming are present here as well. So there's moments where this movie will pull on your heartstrings and make you feel something emotionally. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you want to sing and dance, so it's undoubtedly whimsical, but there's no denying it could have been a bit stronger in terms of fleshing out certain relationships. At the end of the day, Wonka delivered an endearing, pleasant watch. There were moments where I felt almost like a wave of nostalgia rush over me because it reminded me of sitting down, you know, in the early 2000s watching a movie made for families with my family, and so this definitely has traits of those films. It pays homage wonderfully to the original Willy Wonka film. It's got its catchy tunes. Timothée Chalamet delivers one of the more memorable performances in recent years as he fully commits. I mean, love the man, and he brought his A game here. But most importantly, it was a heartwarming, fun time. It's not without its flaws, but I can look past that because of how comfortable this movie made me feel. It really was a treat to watch. So as the holiday season is in full force, I honestly recommend seeing this one with your family. If you go to the movies every Christmas, I feel like this would be a great movie to go take the family and see. Is it perfect? No. And it is a musical. I feel like I have to scream that at you guys because it's not really marketed as one. So if you're not a musical person, this might not be your cup of tea. But for me, as someone who enjoys musicals, I appreciated this for what it was. And Timothée Chalamet's performance alone is enough to go see this thing. Even if you just have to sit through a musical, it's worth watching and one of the more dedicated performances of the year. But those are just my honest thoughts on Wonka. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. And go show some love to the Unusual Couple podcast or weekly episodes over there. We have a blast with it. But thank you guys as always for watching. Until next time, see you guys later.